You arrive at two rooms on the ground floor of Stanton House Inn almost the same way. Private door, a few stone steps, no walking through the parlor at night. That's the surface. Underneath, they have very little in common. One was built for the house's social life, the other was an actual home. This episode is about the billiards room and the former innkeeper's apartment. If you don't know who I am, my name is Colin Pearson. I'm a fourth-generation innkeeper at Stanton House Inn in Greenwich, Connecticut. Every room in this house had a life before it was a guest room. This series is about those lives. Earlier episodes covered the rooms my family lived in, the third floor servants' quarters, and the second floor primary bedroom and apartment suite. Today we're on the ground floor. Two rooms with private entrances, popular with guests who travel with dogs, and anyone who likes the more independent arrival. Room 3 was the billiards room. Room 5 was the innkeeper's apartment. I lived in it, but I'll get to that. One of the things I've learned about this house is that rooms that look similar on paper can host a stay in completely different ways. These two are a good example of that. Room 3 was the billiards room. Today, it's a historic ground floor king. There's a private entrance down a few stone steps from a west-facing patio. It has an original fireplace, wainscoting on 3 walls, and dark wood beams on the ceiling. It reads immediately as a room built for the evening. In a house this size, the billiards room had a very specific job. It wasn't the dining room, obviously. It wasn't the front parlor. It was where people adjourned after dinner. They played pool, smoked cigars, had a drink, conversation that ran longer than the meal had time for. It was the house's evening room. I'm not going to dress this up as a costume drama. I don't know who stood at the table or what they argued about. The useful part is what the room was designed to hold. Conversation, an evening, not a night of sleep. And that's still what comes through when you walk in. The proportions are deliberate. The paneling has weight. The light is moodier than the rest of the ground floor. Years later, that atmosphere is doing all the work. The architecture tells you what this room used to be. 3 walls carry the original paneling and wainscoting. It's not a recent treatment. The actual joinery of the room as it was built. The fireplace is the room's center of gravity. Everything in the room arranges itself around it with no guidance from me. And then the entrance. You don't come in through the main house. You walk down a few stone steps, through a private door, and you're already in the room. That arrival is older than I am. The original use is why the entrance is there. It was meant to feel a little separate, and it still does. The west-facing patio sits just outside that door. It's quiet, out of view of the main entrance. It's the kind of place you stand for a few minutes before going back in for a second drink. None of that was designed for a guest room. It just happens to work for one. I've always liked this room because it doesn't try to be bright and cheerful. It knows what it is. As a present-day room, it's a king with a lot of character. There's a leather reading chair in the corner that we refurbished a few years back. It's a real piece of furniture, not a hotel armchair. Guests in the room tend to find it on day one and not move from it. It's that comfortable. The bathroom is unusually generous for a house this old, especially for a ground floor room. And the door. Arriving without crossing through the main house is something guests appreciate immediately. Patio for the morning, private door for the late return. It's the room for coming back from dinner, leaving the patio door cracked for a minute, and not turning every light on. But those are practical features. They're not the reason you'd choose this room. The reason you choose room 3 is the room itself. It's not the largest king in the house. It's the one with the most architectural character on the ground floor. The paneling, the beams, the mantle, the moodier light, none of that was added later. This room begs you to slow down a little when you walk into it. And most guests do. Room 3 is for the guest who picks character over square footage. Couples who want mood over size. Guests who like the independent arrival, the private door, the quiet patio, no main hall traffic on the way in or out. Pet owners who want the most architectural ground floor room we offer. And the guest who hears the words former billiards room and immediately knows whether that appeals to them. And it usually does. If you want the most charming ground floor room in the house, room 3 is the one. Room 3 still feels like part of the house's evening life. Room 5 is different. It doesn't feel like a former social room turned into a bedroom. It feels like what it was, a place someone actually came home to. Hey, real quick, if any of this sounds good to you, click the link in the description for a free visitor's guide to Greenwich, Connecticut. Room 5 was the innkeeper's apartment for years. Today, it's a ground-level private entry studio, a patio with a bistro set, a proper kitchenette with a fridge, microwave, real plates, a king bed, a lounge area with a love seat, bookshelves with actual books on them, and it still feels more like borrowing a small apartment than checking into a room. Before Room 5 was a guest room, it was a home. Various innkeepers and managers lived here over the years. I lived in it myself from 2019 to 2023. 4 whole years. Long enough for a room to stop being a room and feel like home. It only became a guest room recently after I moved out, which means the residential feeling in here isn't a design choice. It's residue. Real people lived in this room, made breakfast in the kitchenette, read on the love seat, came home through the patio door at the end of long days. When we redesigned it as a guest room, I had an unfair advantage. I knew exactly what it needed. I'd been the one living here after all. The kitchenette stayed because I used it every day, because I made dinner in it every evening for 4 years. The patio stayed where it was. The private door stayed as it was. The zones stayed as they were. The room got fresher. It didn't get redesigned out of recognition. In room 3, the architecture tells you what the room used to be. In room 5, the layout does. You arrive on the patio. 2 chairs, a small bistro table, and a private door under a copper beech tree. You don't pass through anything else to get there. Inside the doorway, the floor is black and white tile, a short entry hall that sets a tone before you've even seen the bed. And the first thing you meet before the bed is the kitchenette. That isn't how a hotel room is laid out. That's how an apartment is laid out. In a hotel room, the bed is the first thing you see because the room is selling the bed. In an apartment, the kitchen is the first thing you see because the kitchen is where the day actually starts. This room was built around the second logic. Past the kitchenette, the room opens into distinct zones. A bedroom zone with the king bed, a sitting area with 2 comfy chairs, the kind you'd actually read on for an hour or 2, a desk and vanity in its own corner, and a separate TV lounge, a small second room with a love seat. One person can watch something while the other reads in the sitting area, and nobody has to whisper. Bookshelves with collected objects on them, small things from various people who lived here before it became a guest room. None of these zones were added to look like an apartment. They're here because this used to be one. As a guest room, this all translates in a specific way. You can come back in the afternoon, put the kettle on, drop something on the table, read for a bit, move to the love seat at night. You don't have to stage your day around being out of the room. The room supports a sequence of living, not just a night of sleeping. Repeat guests tend to find this one first. They've been here before. They know what they want this time, and what they want is to settle in. Couples staying multiple nights who'd rather have real zones rather than a slightly larger single room. Solo travelers on a longer stay. The kind of guest who's here long enough to want a kitchenette. Guests with a dog who like the patio and the private door. And the New Yorker who'd rather borrow a small Greenwich apartment for a few days than stay in something that feels like a hotel. I designed this for guests who want to settle into Greenwich for a few days. That's the easiest way I can say it. Extended stay is the wrong language. It sounds like efficiency furniture and a bolted-on microwave. This is a small lived-in apartment that happens to be a guest room. Room 5 is for the guest who wants to feel like they have a small place in Greenwich for a few days. Not fussed over, not handled, just enough space to feel at home. The kitchenette matters. The bookshelves matter. The fact that you arrive through your own patio door is pretty important in this situation. None of it is showy. All of it adds up to the same feeling. If you like the idea of borrowing a small Greenwich apartment for a few days, room 5 is that room here at Stanton House Inn. 2 ground floor rooms, same private entry convenience, same easier arrival, same appeal for guests who like to come and go quietly, but 2 completely different inheritances. Room 3 carries the memory of the house entertaining itself. Room 5 carries the memory of someone living here. Some guests inherit their character from the architecture. Others inherit it from daily life. These 2 happen to sit on the same floor. That's the thing about a house that's been in one family for 4 generations. Rooms don't have to do the same job. They get to be specific. Room 3 still feels like a quiet evening. Room 5 still feels like home. That's the real difference. The house is more interesting because it lets both of those be true. If one of these rooms sounds like the way you travel, you'll find photos and booking details linked below. And if you want to keep seeing how we think about this old house, there are a lot more rooms with stories I'd like to share. Thanks for watching.